You know, like this can happen to anybody. And that's the thing I keep coming back to is like, how much medical do you keep? How much medical are you keeping in your vehicle? How much supplies for a situation like this? That what if a piece of metal was in the back of my truck and that piece of metal went through my leg? How much, are you keeping a tourniquet in your vehicle? Like, are you keeping your kit in a vehicle that has some medical for something like this? What's up, everybody? Got a little bit different of a video this time around. Uh, Outside my shop here, and I'll get to the reason why it's. So here on the channel, we do talk a lot about prepping and things like that. Just, I don't want to call it like a doomsday prepper thing, but I'm striving to be more than just like a wannabe gun tuber, and I want to talk about like being prepared, not necessarily being a prepper and ready for anything, because what I'm about to get into and talk about, like there's a little more, like you're never going to be fully prepared for everything. And I think it's a futilist move to try to prepare for everything, like to be prepared for a Chinese invasion and then an EMP or a volcano coming up in your backyard. It's more or less you want to just have provisions if something goes down, and those provisions cover a wide base of things. And I've done podcasts before that I'll release here soon. Like I'm got to render a video for it, but it talks about bugging out, like bugging out versus bugging in. And it's like if you're bugging out, you need to have a place to go. But also, what I want to get into is like vehicle-borne, you know, tactics or things like that. Like it's a passion of mine is cars and off-road vehicles, trucks, Jeeps, things like that. And I don't see them. I want to say Dirty Civilian kind of tried. They dabbled in it there, and they had some pretty good content, albeit it was very long. It's hard to run a YouTube video for over 30 minutes and keep people interested. And that long form, it's tough to do. It's tough to do, and it's better just to cut into segments. But I digress on that. But talking about vehicle things and prepping, and like, yeah, we focus more on the Second Amendment type stuff here, and that's the other part of my passion. And a way to segue into vehicles is something that happened to me, and something that you need to realize and think about these things that could happen versus you getting into a gunfight. Like we all realize, like getting into a gunfight is relatively low on the maybe will happen scale. For most people, I'm sure there's parts of the country and other countries that it could be a very high possibility depending on the neighborhood you live in. But let's let's get into something that is a very high probability, and that is talking here about vehicles. And let me go over here. This is my trusty, I'll go over it real quick. This is my trusty crew cab Ford F-150. It's a 2003 model. It's got the 5.4. It's a FX4 four-wheel drive. 2003, this truck was close to top of the line off-road model that a truck could get. So Ford released the FX4 package to kind of compete with Chevrolet Z71. I will say I've had one of these trucks off and on for at least 10 years. I've had them off and on. And these have been some of the best trucks I've ever owned. Never had any major issues with them. Never had the main drivetrain, any issues with them going out. I do maintain my vehicles. That's the biggest thing. If you're going to have a vehicle and you want it to be bulletproof as far as prepping, you need to keep the maintenance up. You need to do your routine maintenance and keep things tip top. And that might be a video we go over in a later date. But either way, I've had this truck 5 years. It's been one of the best trucks I've ever owned. And I'm going to show you why. And stay with me, because this is a shocker. So recently we were just in a fender bender. So it doesn't look too bad, right? Let me flip. Yeah, so there we go. So we were stopped to turn into our driveway. And somebody hit us in the rear end here, dead square. Didn't even try to stop, didn't even hit their brakes. Let you get a good eyes on. I mean, a lot of you people that are car people, you may even be in the trade of bodywork, you understand what you're looking at right here. This is a serious hit. We were at a dead stop and they hit us. The speed limit here is 55 miles an hour. They were doing every bit of that and probably more. And while we couldn't prove it, there was no braking marks. There was no skid marks coming along, like where they even tried to stop. They hit us full force. And that leads me to believe that they were on their phone. They were doing something where they were not paying attention for a long stretch, at least a quarter-mile stretch, whenever they came to hit us. And I'll show you here, like that's the frame. Broke out the trusty flashlight here. And if you're wondering, I know I'm not shilling for them, but it's Olight i3T EOS. It's powered by a AAA, but it's an awesome flashlight. But check out the frame here. That leaf spring right here, look how it's bent. Look at this frame, like how it's essentially buckled right here. And this is a heavy duty pickup truck frame. This truck was designed to tow almost 10,000 pounds. And this is just one side here. And like I said, this has been a great truck. I've driven it over 65,000 miles since I owned it. I'll show you last but not least. This is caved in. Let me zoom out, but this is sloped. So this is straight and this is sloped downward. And you can see like it is pulling the bed down because of the impact. It has bent and torqued everything down. So that's a major hit. Now I'll show you the other side. This frame, part of the frame, the driver's side, the side that I was on, is even worse. Look at the leaf springs bent. Just absolutely jacked up. And this, so I had my whole family with me in this truck. My entire family was in it. And we were minding our business, turning into our driveway. We had to turn across traffic, turn left into our driveway, so we had to wait for some oncoming traffic to clear. And just like that, boom, you know, we're hit. Never seen it coming. Didn't know. Like, I seen a split second in my rear view of the headlights, but not enough to make it out. It happened at night. And this is the thing you need to realize, that anytime, anywhere, something like this could happen. And luckily, we're okay. We just superficial wounds and whatnot, like nothing major so far. We've been cleared medically, but luckily we're okay. And you know, like, this can happen to anybody. I've been in 4 major wrecks right now like this. All of them not my fault. Like, all of them were deemed not my fault. I've been in 4 major wrecks. And that's the thing I keep coming back to, is like, how much medical do you keep? How much medical are you keeping in your vehicle? How much supplies for a situation like this? That what if a piece of metal was in the back of my truck and that piece of metal went through my leg? How much, you know, are you keeping a tourniquet in your vehicle? Like, are you keeping your kit in a vehicle that has some medical for something like this? Or the possibility is even higher that you may come upon and witness, and you may be the first response in a situation like this. Like EMS, EMTs may be 10 to 15 minutes out, and that you acting upon them and rendering aid and learning and knowing how to render aid might be the thing that keeps them from bleeding out and dying. It might be the thing that you're pulling them out of a vehicle before it goes up in flames, especially with the new EV craze, right? You know, those things burn. Every time they wreck, they catch on fire. And so being aware of situations, especially when you're driving, is important. And having supplies like this, not necessarily Second Amendment supplies, but keeping a small emergency kit if you're in a situation like this, in any vehicle that you own. That's the point I want to drive home here. That's the point I want to drive home, that this could happen to any one of us at any given time, and you may not be as lucky as we were to walk away and the pickup even drive it away out of the mess. But that's the point I want to drive home with preparedness, is stop preparing for the imaginary zombie apocalypse and prepare for realistic things like this potentially happening. That's what I want to drive home with people, is like, you don't have to be a super Navy SEAL operator. You don't have to be that. A well-informed, prepared citizen is what I would rather have beside me than a super duper Navy SEAL operator, because you know what? Those guys generally only operate well in teams and with guys that they have been with and built with and went through hardship with for years. A lot of these guys, you take them out of the teams, you take Delta Force guys out of the team, they're nothing. They're not that great. I'm saying that their multiplier comes with being with like-minded people. They're trained up to a certain level with multiple people to get a task done. And that's the thing, like Risky said, you have to be able to crawl before you walk. So, you know, learning this, getting into like a stop the bleed class, like a first aid, first response top class, they're usually free or cost next to nothing. You should take that before you even do a gun class. Because hey, guess what? Accidents happen on the gun range. And if you're frequenting the gun range more than a normal person, you're increasing those risks of some kind of accident happening. The more you drive, the more you're increasing the risk. So that's the thing I want to drive home, is like, stop preparing for these fantasies and these things that YouTubers are on here saying. I know it's a little hypocrisy here, but you need to find your foundation based in the reality of your operational field. You need to base it in what has a high probability of happening to you. That is how you need to base and start your kit, not like pile on, you know, hundreds of years worth of freeze-dried food because Joe Schmo Doomsday Prepper said so. No, you need to start with, do you have a basic kit in your vehicle? Do you have a basic med kit? If something happens and you need to render medical aid. I'm not saying turn your truck into an ambulance, but I'm saying, do you have a basic med kit to cover something? Like you're out hiking and something happens, but you can get back to your vehicle. Do you have something basic to cover that? Do you have something to fix a flat tire? Do you have a pump for your flat tire? Do you know if your truck even has a jack, or your vehicle has a jack to jack up the vehicle for a flat tire? Do you know if you have a tire iron? These are the things you need to learn and know about a vehicle. You need to know how to do these things. You need to know basic first aid. You need to know how to pack or plug a tire. Mainly plug, because you're going to be in the field. Or get the spare out from under it. Do you know where the spare is located? Do you know where the tool is to let the spare down on a lot of trucks? Like, you need to make sure you have these things before you're operating in the vehicle. That's where your preparedness should be. That you pull up, like somebody was in shock because I keep jumper cables and a pump to pump up a tire in my truck. And I'm like, well, I've had flats before, and the last thing I want to do is have to call somebody and wait 45 minutes for them to come and get me and us take a tire off and take it to be patched. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather have a pump and plugs to fix that shit in 20 minutes and be rolling and not worry about it. So yeah, this has probably put just a short little gap, a little damper on our live action shooting vids. I might space it out a week or so because I'm got to deal with this. So a little bit of my YouTube stuff is going to be back, but I have content already in the works that it should still be coming to you guys. So don't freak out and say, oh, he's done with the channel. No, that's not it. But I've got some other bigger things in the works too to bring to the channel, but got to kind of back them off a little bit. But either way, here's the update. And if you made it this far, let me know if you like this shirt, Abort Biden, with him falling down. It's there'll be a link below to my campsite page, and they'll have the store on there, and you can jump on there, and that supports me you become the sponsor, and you let me know, show me your little receipt code or whatever, send it to me on Instagram, and I'll give you a shout out on here for being an ammo sponsor. I'd love to let you guys sponsor getting the ammo and other kits, and then eventually we can work our way up to doing giveaways. Like any gear that I feel like I'm not going to keep or whatever, or it may be a gear I really like and you guys seem to really like, I may give it away. Do a drawing to give it away. I can always buy more gear. You let me know, but buy my merch. Yeah, I'm here shilling my own stuff, but it goes to a good cause. It's not something going into my pocket for whatever, for profit. It's something that I'm going to use to grow and bring you more awesome content. So this is XXL Dude telling you that resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. See y'all.